How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews, back with a little bit of a beer I've reviewed before in a couple different ways. So this would be Alchemist Beelzebub. Fair enough. I've done it before. It's an American Imperial Stout coming in at 8% alcohol by volume. I've reviewed this straight up, fresh. When I believe I might have got a can of it when I came back from my honeymoon. And most recently, which is only about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I actually reviewed it this as a mystery beer. But the twist on that was that it was a aged Beelzebub mystery beer. My buddy Steven sent, I believe it was Steven, sent it off as an aged mystery beer. And he had written on there 2018. And I reviewed it, and it did not hold up all that well. But post review, he actually said I was mistaken. That was a 2019 Beelzebub, not a 2018. Now we have a 2018. Courtesy of my boy Dan, aka Disco Pie, from out Pittsburgh way. He sent me off this, and I was like, oh man, he probably didn't see that mystery beer, but I'm really excited to do this because it's almost like a second wave of that. It's kind of like, okay, let's give it another shake. Let's see how this one is aged. Let's dive into it. So yeah, 2008 Alchemist Beelzebub. Now this is that super hop forward, super hoppy aggressive beer. And when I did that other aged one, it actually ended up being quite surprising because it retained a decent amount of bitterness. But what it did lose was mouthfeel. You know, lost mouthfeel, lost richness, lost that weedy component even. It just had this big kind of bitteriness to it, which is kind of surprising even with 2 years on it. Now you're talking about 3, so kind of curious to see where this one lands. They don't talk about the beer at all. They push Kinnick's YouTube channel on there. I kind of like that. So, anyway. No date because it's Alchemist. Yeah, actually, I really do dig the can design. As far as it looks the part of a big old Imperial Stout. Let's get a nose. Bittering coffee vibes. So I'm getting a bittering component off of this. I'm getting soft chocolate vibes, but I'm getting like a dark roast coffee off of this. Typically, what I'm getting to get off of Beelzebub is a lot of weedy components, a lot of that kind of danky resinous characteristics. What I'm getting here is a bit more milk chocolatey, a little bit of dark chocolate, a decent amount of dark chocolate actually, and then that slight bittering hop with a nice kind of coffee roast component to it. So it smells like a nice beer. It just lacks that classic Alchemist kind of weed level to it. Not necessarily a bad thing for this kind of beer, but last time, like I said, that 2019 can had a very big hit on the mouthfeel. So let's just dive in, see where this one lands. Cheers. See, on this one, there's actually quite a nice mouthfeel on it. The problem is everything else is kind of just lowered, kind of muted out a little bit. I don't know if you hear my dog Taco crying. My wife's upstairs with Mika. He's down here by himself and I have my door closed, so now he's a whiny mess. I think this is a better beer than that 2019 version. At least how it's held up. The bittering subsided decently. It's still there. It's still rather aggressive. And I'm sure if I had this as a mystery beer, I still think it would be a decent amount of bitterness for a darker beer. So I'd probably think of this as a Russian Imperial Stout at this point. That chocolate, that coffee really doesn't come through in the taste. There's a little bit of soft baker's chocolate in the taste, but the coffee that I got on the nose really is not there actually in the taste, and I kind of missed that. Not that it would have been there in the original beer, but my nose thought it was going to be there, and a lack of that kind of bums me out a little bit. The mouthfeel, like I said, is much, much nicer than what I remember from the 2019 version. It's not thick. It has this porter-esque kind of creaminess to it, but it does finish kind of thin. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's the best mouthfeel in the history of mankind, but much, much better than that 2018 or 19 version. The bittering is quite a bit more subdued. It is. It's still aggressive, but this beer is hyper-aggressive when it comes to bittering. So to see that big step back from 19 to 18, because it obviously didn't have a huge step back from 2021 to 2019, but from that 1918, there is a decent amount of kind of softening of that bitterness. And I think it actually adds a little bit to the beer. Listen, this beer is absolutely 100% best drank fresh. You might not like the way this flavor profile comes off in this beer fresh, with how hyper aggressive that weedy dankiness comes and that bitterness in a stout. It's not necessarily my favorite kind of combination of flavors when it comes to beer, but it's exciting and it's purposeful. It's what John is trying to do there, and he does it quite well. So to age this beer, I'm not going to say it's blasphemous, because I think aging any kind of beer and see how it kind of changes over time is worth its salt, just to see how beers kind of ebb and flow with age. So the fresher, the better when it comes to this one. But if you're going to age this, I think you're better off aging it for a little bit of long haul. I'd like to see this with about 5 years on it, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it might round into something more akin to an Americanized version of a Russian Imperial Stout, with a more kind of sweeter, maybe get a little sweet, savory notes out of this after a little bit of extra aging or something like that on it. But it's a fun experiment to do. And it'll be cool to see this kind of age. I'm sure down the road I might be able to track down a couple cans that are 5 or 6 years old, and if that's the case, then it's going to be a fun beer to dive into. And like I said, these kind of age experiments on beers like these are all pretty much, that's what they are. They're experiments. They're not something that we know how this particular beer is going to age. We don't know how this particular batch is going to age, let alone the cans. The cans could be different seals, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of randomness that is beer when it comes to these kind of beers and these kind of vessels that they're kind of contained in. But all in the end of everything, I'm going to drink this whole beer. As opposed to the other one, I didn't think I was a big fan of it. I might not have drank it. I believe I'm going to drink this whole one. I want to see how this kind of changes and matures and just when it warms up, what else kind of comes out of it or what goes away. And it's a very fun experiment. So thank you very much, Dan, for sending this off. So, is this one of the better stouts I've had? Is like, no. I mean, I can still put it in a conversation, but it's more of a fun beer as opposed to a really viscerally delicious beer. The newer version I do dig for what it is. I mean, not my favorite combination of flavors, but it's a fun beer nonetheless. Value and availability, $14 for a 4-pack. Just go up there and get it. You might even be able to find it on a shelf, but they'll probably price gouge you on it and leave you with, if you like what, will you like this? If you like bittering hop forward stouts, even at this age, it's still showing that. So if you like those Russian Imperial Stouts, the more Americanized versions, but you want a little danky grain in your life, even though this one lacks that a bit with the age, all in all, you're going to like this beer. So there you go. A little bit of fun experiments in the book. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massif if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little Alchemist right now. Aged or otherwise. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.